Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the chill session of the conclusions. So you come here and chill and we just chit chat about things that's happening right now in the Ukraine war, some of my opinions and don't take it seriously, chill out. Happy birthday to you if your birthday today. And if you have never seen this channel before, I suggest you press subscribe first. If you think that what I say or you don't like my video, then you unsubscribe later. No, just a suggestion. So or you may never see me again. So yeah, just in case, right? Always insurance. So the Ukraine war right now, the Russians are on the ascendant. The Ukrainian so far because I have hypothesized that the Ukrainian defense capability have dropped by a level, and the Russians on our mapping has been capturing 10 square kilometers plus a day for more than a year now. And lately, it seems like this number have increased to 20 square kilometers, and it looks like this is becoming a very consistent phenomenon. And the Russians have, in the general macro sense, have launched a number of major offensives. Particularly over in the Sumi region, the Russians have launched this Sumi offensive. There's also some kind of like unrest, around the Kharkiv front. It is looking a little bit tricky. There's offensive happening over in the Vesna region, Vesna front region. There is of course the Lyman front. There is a major offensive over there. Sliver's front, there is also an offensive, and over in the south of Bakhmut, over in the New York region, there is a number of offensive. One is over in the previous southern flank of the Bakhmut front, over the Pokrovsk region. Another one heading towards the south of Konstantinivka. Another one heading to around the Pokrovsk, not Pokrovsk, it's Pokrovsk Minokhrad region. And another one is heading towards is in the southern flank of the Pokrovsk front. Another one over here, over at the Velika Novosilka, north of Velika Novosilka, is now known as the Koma front, over the western flank. And there's also harassment along the Zaporizhia region, particularly an offensive around the Kayamsky sector. So this is the general sense of the scale of the war so far, and the number of offensive is just too much for the Ukrainians to handle right now. So some of the major developments, I think of course we have to talk about the Sumi front. The Russians, this Sumi, and over the Sumi front, the Russians have launched offensive around this region, particularly in this direction. Coming out from Sudja region and basically west of Sudja. So this is the offensive, and the Russians are pushing in the latest reports in Vodolahi, Belovody, Loknia towards Yunakivka, Zadki, and towards Oleksievka. They are shelling the chain of settlements in the rear where the Ukrainians are having their forward operating HQs, and also over at Kotin, which is the other side of this chain of settlements. The Russians are pushing all the way, and the aim is to create the buffer zone that the Putin have ordered to be created to protect Russian land against future Ukrainian incursions. So this is currently happening. The other major things happening right now, the most significant I would say is actually happening over in the south of Bakhmut, as I mentioned earlier. So there is this massive frontline change that just been geolocated. Russian forces suddenly appearing just in the south of Didievka, in the west of Ozeryanivka. This frontline change is massive. It is a huge frontline change. This area alone is 10.9 square kilometers. It's a very, very big frontline change around here, which justifies my plan to put this side of the front line into the New York front, because I've seen this to appear like one offensive, one operation, and it seems like this is correct. The hypothesis is correct. The Russian forces is now pushing in this direction, and they are also pushing at Kudyamivka, Bilohora, in the Druzhba region, Dilievka, in the other Dilievka here. The Battle of Toretsk continue, and they are pushing towards Ivano-Pilia. Sometimes they go for Plishevka and sometimes Katerinivka. This is one operation, and the entire objective right here is to shut out the entire southern flank of Konstantinivka. So this is a very big city of Konstantinivka. This is a very big city. This is bigger than Bakhmut, and the Russians aim in the midterm is to close down the front line here and create a defense line, enclosing the Ukrainian forces into Konstantinivka. I do not believe the Russians are going to storm it directly. I personally don't think so. I think it's just to flank it. Something happening exactly at the Pokrovsk region, because it is really not worth it, and it's super expensive for the Russians to storm a major urban city. It's best to actually encircle it and force the enemy to redraw, rather than fight in it and you get the whole city destroyed and flattened, like what happened in Voschansk in the Kharkiv front. So if Voschansk right now in the Kharkiv front is entirely flattened. Oh no, the loading is so slow. This entire region is entirely flattened. The entire city is flattened, particularly in these northern parts where the fighting is happening. It's totally flattened. It's Gaza. No, this place is Gaza. So which is why I think from that experience, from what happening in Mariupol previously, Mariupol was also pretty flattened after the initial fighting in 2022. So I think the rebuilding also made the Russians realize it's really expensive to really fight in a major city, and conquering it, then you have to repair it. Yeah, it's very costly. So I think the Russians will not do that. I think the aim is to create this this defense line around it, and then just flank it around. So this is Konstantinivka, right? So let me drop. This is Konstantinivka. So the Russians are currently trying to not there. This line, they are trying to establish this line here. This line is pretty established right now. This is hardly moving, the front line here. But I believe that this area here is too complicated for the Russians, and I think they want to close it up like this. So which is why the offensive currently is happening around here. And the Ukrainians are doing their best to resist. They are counter-attacking or holding the line as long as they can. But what's the grand strategy right here? The grand strategy is to cut the Ukrainians off from the west, because the supplies come in from the west, right? So the idea is to cut it off. And this offensive is now, you can be seen over in the Romanivka, Zoria region. They are attacking and moving northward. The Russians are also pushing for Yablunivka, Oleksandro Kalinove. Similarly, it will be a defense line around here. And another offensive currently happening over in the western flank of the New York front is over the fighting at Popivya, Rusinya, and this is the one that will go all the way up and to blockade Drukivka over there, and they can also go over and capture Oleksievo, Drukivka, and then of course they can actually do this. Then the fighting over Chasivia and moving westward would then make more sense for them to try to close it up. This will be the last operation. This one over here, this is going to be the last operation. Because this is really tough. The defense lines here are really thick. Not particularly the best time to attack this, while the Ukrainians are still stronger than they could be. So so this line, then cut them off like this, and then you go for this. Then you force the Ukrainians out. That's probably the game plan. So, but that's gonna take months to unfold, I believe. At least 3 to 6 months to unfold, and of course it is 3 to 6 months is actually considered quite fast. But this is putting into consideration that the Ukrainians' defensive capability will continue to degrade. So as they continue to degrade, the Russians are going to capture grounds faster and faster. So like this frontline change is a bit shocking. How the Russians arrive here is no anyone's guess. So this entire region here, the Ukrainians must have already abandoned their position. So the Russians have moved in. So that's the main gist. So that is the main game plan around Konstantinivka. The same game plan is currently developing over in the Pokrovsk-Vinograd region. So this is Pokrovsk, this is Vinograd. The Russian forces have allegedly, captured Shevchenko Pershi. They are pushing towards Smyrny. Myro-Lvivka has been captured. They are pushing Mykolaiivka, and they are attacking towards Kharkiv. And this is all part of the same operation to then flank into the rear. The static line currently is over here. This is the static line. This is the standoff line. This is the line that they force the Ukrainians to get stuck here, and it's looking very creepy right now. This is so creepy, So this is the plan here. This is a static line. The Russians will then flank into the rear, and then cut off the main road over here. Then when this really have to break through, the Russians will start to push from the other side and force a Ukrainian withdrawal towards the northwest. So that is this is the other side of the operation, and this side is focusing over on the Konstantinivka side of the situation. This is the entirely different front line. So this side is the other front line, the Pokrovsk front, and this side is the New York front. So this is why this is Pokrovsk, this is New York. So that's the main reason or why I cut the front line this way. So both is doing this big arrow offensive. So this is the operation. So let me draw it out, and this will be the one operation, and then the other operation will be like this. Yeah. So this is the other operation, and both. This is the operation going around the two cities. So that's why the Russians these kind of big arrow offensives previously is really not doable because the Ukrainians was very strong, and they are really peer level to the Russian forces. But right now, the Ukrainian forces is very, very degraded, super degraded. They're running out of I think the ammo situation have been resolved because of the Ukrainians, the Europeans stepping up. So the ammo issue is not as bad as it was in 2022-2023. But the heavy equipments, the armored vehicles problem is getting worse. Artillery pieces is also missing. The Ukrainians are now putting all their investment into drones. And even the drones is a problem right now because they are getting out-droned by the Russians. The Russians industrial might has come online. They are now building drones in the 10 of thousands per week. We're talking about like 5-digit numbers of drones getting produced every single week. And the Ukrainians, despite they have ramped up their drone production, they cannot compete with the Russians in terms of numbers. They also are unable to compete with the Russians in terms of electronic warfare. The Ukrainians have it, but the Russians found ways to go around it. And all this attritional situation is ramping up. So far, there was this interview done by Real Reporter with a drone expert from Russia. The real advantage right now on the Ukrainian side, if there's any, is because of Starlink. And that is 100% dependent on the Americans. So if the Americans withdraw, like what happened to that 1 week where the Americans cut off intel to the Ukrainians, the entire Kursk front collapsed. That 1 week that the Americans cut off intel, the Russians went on offensive in the Kursk front and retook the entire Kursk region subsequently. So that is the kind of impact that the Americans have on the Ukrainian side. And if the Americans gave up on supporting the Ukrainians, then the collapse is going to come super fast, because the Ukrainians is not going to get intel from satellite. They have no satellite and intel on where to hit for their long range weapons. maybe Starlink might be cut off. No, so then the Ukrainians is going to fall even faster. So Ukraine tentatively is well, actually they are on life support. The life support coming from the Europeans and the Americans. And generally, honestly speaking, the Europeans have given whatever they could give. They are pretty limited on what they can give without cutting their own meat. Even when they already cut off almost an entire arm to give it to the Ukrainians. So that is the main gist. Some other front is also collapsing. There is this big breakout coming at the Lyman front. So this is Lyman. And in the northern flank of the Lyman front, the Russians are have captured Rukodo. They looks like they have captured Lipove as well. Katarinivka is captured. Novomihailivka is claimed to be captured. So the front line is going to look a bit like this as they continue to push towards Karpivka and Novi Maya, Khrushchenkove, and they will continue to head westward. There is previous report about fighting towards Serene, and so this is going to continue to push until the Oskil River. So the aim, I mentioned before, the aim right here is actually the Oskil River, particularly in Oskil. So let me move all the arrows. So the aim most likely is Oskil over here. Oh, you still cannot see it. Damn it. Okay, yeah, you should see it right now. So yeah, the aim is actually Oskil, particularly at least hitting the Oskil River. So the river is here. So the aim is to head on to all the way to this region. So once you reach this, you can create a defense line. You can cut out supplies for the Ukrainians, and I think life will get really, really complicated for the Ukrainians right here. So if I zoom out, it's probably yeah. So that's the aim, target, Oskil. So that's the operation. It's not related to the Lyman front in the direct sense. It's mainly logistically, maybe it affects the Lyman front, but no. It may mean mainly the Lyman front's connection to the north, to the Borova front region. So this is happening. The other main offensive operation is currently happening in the northern flank of the Vesna front, where the Russians have captured Troivka. We have confirmed this intel. The Russians are still stuck in battle over at Kanyamka. The Ukrainians are trying to do their best to trap the Russians here, as the Russians try to push out. But there is already like the Russians have most likely have captured Topoli, so they are going to push out in the other direction. So this battle is happening. Russians also claim Krasny Pershi, so this is important to note that there's a claim here, and they could potentially go out as well. So the situation here is very, very difficult for the Ukrainians. We shall see how the Ukrainians going to deal with this. Likely they can't. There is some hints of operations around here. Like today, the Russian Defense Ministry announced the capture of Kindrashivka. So this comes suddenly, as the Russians previously were attacking sporadically, at least being reported here. So, and they have mentioned they have captured Rakivka as well as Kalinove. So the front line probably looks like this right now, and the Russians going to continue to push out in this region. The main aim, they also mentioned capture of Doroshivka, by the way. So, and Zapadne was much older. So the front line, may look very different from our map right now, the actual reality. And this means that this northern part is very, very stable, leading up to Zaporizhzhia. So this part is pretty much a very strong foothold for the Russians. And then what they can do after this area is to swing to the rear position of Kupiansk. So this Kupiansk, there's a river flowing through it. And the idea is to flank and force a Ukrainian withdrawal out. And this may collapse the entire Kupiansk front. So this could be something that's happening, but it might be very difficult because there is a support of a major city here. So usually when you have a big city, it's a bit difficult to fight against the Ukrainians there, because the Ukrainians have a much better logistical support when it's so near to a big city. If it's very rural, then they need much longer logistics. Then it is more risky, and the trucks, the armored vehicles are all more targeted as they travel along the rural roads. So there's something happening over here. And in the Kharkiv front, something very unusual is basically Starysia. The Ukrainians are mentioning about the Russians attacking in the Starysia region. So this operation is a bit unusual. The Russians did not mention anything about this. So far, there's also not much intel regarding this area here. We shall wait and see. There is always this threat that the Russians may open a new offensive over in the Kozacha Lopan sector, maybe over the Volchansky Kotori region, or or maybe over in this western part. So there is a few places that always looks a bit tricky, and then now Starysia. So, and notwithstanding that there is already a major offensive happening in the Vorechna front at the border. So these are the main areas to watch out for. In terms of Sumi, I already mentioned generally, this area. During the SIP I did mention that there is a potential path forward if the Russians want to capture Sumi. So the main protection for Sumi is this big forest over here in the north and eastern part of Sumi, which is also why you can see that they built a defense line on the other side, because the defense line here with the forest is pretty strong. So, but this entire northwest of Sumi is not, they do not have the big forest. So the Russians have captured Konstantinivka over here, so they could potentially, so let me zoom in so that it's a bit clearer. So this is the forest, right, where the Ukrainian defense line could be established, and then the heavy entrenchments. So the Russians captured Konstantinivka, and I think they announced the capture of Kindrashivka, right? Oh no, this is Kindrashivka, this is Kindrativka. So this is another place. The Russians could attack down Kindrativka towards Khotin, and then hit to Krove, Runika, Mykolaievka, and Sofievka, and then they can Stakivka, down to this all the way to this fortification line, and if the fortification line is broken, for example, any part is broken, the Russians can storm right around Sumi, and that would be a disaster for the Ukrainians. And particularly, they would go for the highway to cut off the highway connection, and so they can basically attack Sumi without needing to deal with this big chunk of forest, and just through strategic movement. So this Sumi, so Ukrainians are here, right? So the forest. So if the Russians hit down this way and cut off this highway, then continue to flank around, cut off the other highway, continue to flank around, cut off the other highway, and then the major offensive come out from the rest of the border regions and put pressure around. If this is the case, and then they threaten encirclement, then the Ukrainians, if they want to preserve their troops, they may not want to keep the troops within the forest, because it will be impossible, literally just impossible to resupply and rotate the forces inside this envelopment. Then they would have to redraw. A withdrawal will be needed, like double time. But this, of course, this will develop in over maybe even a year if the Ukrainians can continue to fight well. So this is not going to be so fast, unless the Ukrainians is severely degraded. Then of course, then we can see this within half a year. Then this development, like a fall of a size of a city like Sumi, will be devastating. Then all the negotiations at the negotiating table is going to change. The Russians is going to have a much bigger card. The card become a trump card. And pun is not intended, but it's a trump card. So against the Ukrainians, And the Russians may just annex it, and say, oh, Sumi is now a new republic, they'll have this, the sham election, and then they say, oh, people all voted to join Russia. Yeah, that could happen. And yeah, then the entire demand from the Russians is going to change quite significantly. And if you capture Sumi and not the rest, it will be seem like a waste. Then eventually they just hit all the way to the Dnieper River. Yeah, they will just hit all the way to the Dnieper River, because why not? No, so because if you can capture Sumi, I don't think the Ukrainians can defend the rest. I think the Ukrainians are going to do whatever they can to save Sumi. So yeah, a lot of bad things could potentially happen. But of course, no. If you're pro-Ukraine, don't worry. It's perfectly safe right now. No, this is a safe space. No, Ukraine is winning. No, Slava Ukraini. No, yeah. So we are the good guys. No, we are the good guys. No, so no, the evil will not win. The orcs always lose to the elves. So no, don't worry. So anyway, for those that wonders about the Zaporizhia front, as I mentioned quite a number of times already in sit reps and even conclusions, the front line here is now mainly operating as a diversion. Generally speaking, the main offensive operation is still within this area here in the Kayamsky sector. Fighting, occasionally is being reported towards Palivka, but generally, it's still along the line at Shabaki, Stepove, sometimes Kanyamsky, Novoandreevka, Novodanilevka, Malatomashka. Mainly that. Then occasionally there will be like reports of fighting at Huyai or Visoke, which is also Chauvin. But because this is a major defense line around here, there's a major, pretty much a war here. Breaking through this line is going to be super difficult unless you're going to involve airborne troops, and suddenly land troops in the rear positions, create massive havoc, take major losses, but then you can overrun all these positions. But I don't think the Russians need to really do that. So it's really not necessary. So I don't expect much breakthrough around here. Like I hear about so much suppressing offensives, but I always not very bullish about it because I know it's really hard. It's just super hard. So basically, yeah, I think I covered most of it. Koma front, the Russians have already pretty much secured Andrievka, Konstantinopel, Bahatiev, Odradne. The entire line here is pretty much pretty settled. The Russians are now just making gradual push towards in the northwestern direction, but they are very half-hearted. They are not really serious about this anymore. This no longer is a very important front line for them now. It's pretty much a kill zone only. Like just the Ukrainians will just keep coming, because they still have opium in their blood, and they just go there and die. So the Russians are pretty happy to establish a strong line and just wait for them to come. In the Koma front, the more serious push is over in the south, where they're trying to consolidate the position around here. Novosilka, Zelenopole, Novopil, Novodarivka. Zelenopole has already fallen. The most likely the line, they just want to straighten the front line further and potentially capture Shevchenko, and then see how, and probably Komishuvaka later, because this is still part of the Donetsk region. And then after this entire southern region is fully secured, this entire area here is fully secured, then they're going to make a more serious push up north, and capture the rest of the Donetsk Oblast. But tentatively, this is this region here is the main offensive operation for the Koma front, and you can see some of these frontline changes around here. So mainly that's it. So just a very chill session, very random, all over the place. Conclusions, it's not a report. This is not a report. This is just opinion piece. So just that's why I call it conclusions. So thank you for watching. Press the like button, subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments. Even if I didn't see it, I think other viewers might. Then maybe you can make friends. And yeah, I just joking. No, nobody make friends on YouTube comments. Yeah. So anyway, but you want to make friends, you can join the DPA forum. Links is all in the description below. And if you want to support my work, really support me through Patreon. That would be the best place. And yeah, join the DPA Discord if you prefer. You're a Discord person. If not, if you use Telegram, then join DPA forum. Yeah, DPA forum is a bit more free speech. Anything goes. So it's very likely that you're gonna get offended over there. Discord, no, is very sanitized. No, some people find it, very authoritarian, but no choice. Discord term of service is really strict. And yeah, and that's it. Thank you for watching. Press the like button, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next update. And happy birthday to you again if your birthday today. You see, you get double because you watch all the way to the end. No?